Okay, so we just finished up following the facial rules last week on how do you draw a face, like where should you put the eyes and how big should the nose be and where's the hairline and all of those different rules on how to draw a face. So this week what we're going to do is we're going to actually draw our own faces. And if you remember from last week, I said we're going to kind of make like a wanted poster and we're going to add a little bit of a different twist to it next week. But you started today by coming in and making sure that you'd made a value scale. So we went from as light as we could possibly color all the way to as dark as we could color with that one color of brown colored pencil. You'll want to make sure that you're really thinking about this value scale as you get ready to do your work today. This is going to be that thing that we use to create shading, and shading is going to be the skill that I'm really looking at. I'm going to show you a little bit of an easier way to draw your face, and then the skill that we're really going to focus on is how are you going to do the shading? How are you going to add that light and dark area and pay attention to all the different features and details on your face that make your face look like you? Okay, so let's get ready to get started. Okay, so we're going to get ready to get started, and I have a tan piece of paper that I'm going to draw on. I have that on my table. I have a piece of carbon paper, and what carbon paper is it is just like white paper on one side, and the other side of it is coated with carbon, or kind of like pencil graphite, different things. And we're going to make sure that we lay that with the dark side down onto our tan paper. And then the last thing that we have is a photograph. Now I know this scary one is of me. You guys are each going to get a photo of yourself, but that's going to kind of be the top part of our sandwich. So once you have those all stacked together, you're going to be ready to get to drawing. Now, like I said, this is kind of that cheater or that easy way of doing this. So what we're going to do is, I don't want to put my whole hand on my paper, but I want to make sure that I'm holding my papers in place. And I'm just going to trace around or draw around those main details of my face. Now, as I'm drawing, if I need to check what I'm doing, I want to make sure that I keep my hands down, and then I can lift up the rest of my paper to see how my drawing's going. Now, obviously, I'm going to realize, oh my goodness, I forgot my hair and my neck, so I'll want to trace those out. And I won't get every single perfect little detail, but I'll get a pretty good idea of where those things are. And then again, I can just double check that I have everything drawn the way I want it. Again, I'm not adding in details of my hair. I'm not adding in the shading. I'm just getting that outline. But once I look at it and I'm like, you know what? I think I have all the main details of my face done. Then I can go ahead and take off my carbon paper. I cannot lift up my carbon paper at any other time because as soon as I do, if I tried to put it down in the same place, it would be impossible to get that done. Now, once I have my face actually drawn, I have to take a little bit of time and just really look at my photograph. So when I really look at my photograph, I can see all of these areas that are really, really light areas. Those are probably going to be just the color of the paper. I'm not even going to put any shading on there. I can see some areas that are like a medium, a little bit darker, really dark. So if you think back, that's kind of like that value scale where I have some of the areas that are going to be really, really light, and it's going to get darker and darker until I get to the darkest values. So I want to make sure that I'm really paying attention to those values as I'm shading. So if I come in here on the side of my nose, I want to curve that shading kind of like the side of my nose is curved, and I have to kind of fade it out to that light value. And it gets really dark up in my eye. Now if you notice, as I'm drawing, I'm not worrying about the whole side of the face. I'm going piece by piece. So I want to make sure that I'm really looking at where all those different areas are, if they're lighter or if they're darker. So I'm almost comparing like this area to this area, and then this area to this area, and back and forth. I don't want it to be like I'm doing the whole face at one time. And I can put a little bit of shading on my eyebrow. But then I know that those are some of those little hairlines. Okay. On this side of my nose, it's going to get really dark in by my eyes. So I got to make sure that I go in there and get that really dark. And I'm just going to keep going and doing all of that shading on my face until the whole thing's done. Again, I really, really, really have to look for those values. A couple things that people will do that they do wrong is they'll come in here and they'll make all of their shading lines straight up and down. Well, if you think about your face curves and it has little different bends and things in it. So your shading lines shouldn't be straight lines. If you have an area underneath your eye that is curving, then that shading line should be curving. If it's coming along your nose, it should be coming along your nose. If it's going down along your face, that might be a little bit more of a straight line. But then when it comes around your cheeks, it's going to wiggle around your cheeks. You really have to think about those directional lines and all of those different values that you need to put on your picture. Okay, so now that you saw me get started on my picture, you know how to do your picture for the day. And kind of like an idea of what your goals should be for today, everybody should have their value scale done. That should already be done. Then you're going to want to make sure that you get your face transferred to your tan paper. Again, just remember, it's just the outlines with the carbon paper. Don't be getting all the details because the carbon paper will leave kind of a mess on your paper and it's really hard to erase. So you don't want to draw in every little detail with the carbon paper, just those general ideas of where things are and what they look like. Then you can start in on that shading and just really think about that value scale. Where are things the lightest? Where are they a little bit darker? And then a little bit darker. And then a little bit more darker. And what's the darkest spots? And then just really think about like your hair and those directional lines and all of that stuff that we've talked about before. The last goal that you should have besides your value scale and getting your face drawn is to have your face shaded and probably your hair pretty close. Next week we're going to finish these up by simply adding in our clothes. So don't worry about drawing your clothes today. Like you just want your shirt collar line and your shoulders, and then we'll do the rest of it next week. For today, you just want to have your face shaded and that hair done. All right, see you later.